How's it, everyone, and welcome to our first newsroom episode discussing all things Pokemon. I've got a few guests with me this evening. First up, Aaqil, you want to tell the people a little something about yourself?
Hi, my name's Aaqil. I've been playing competitive Pokemon for about 8 years now, and my best accomplishment would be winning nationals in 2014.
Nice. We've also got Matthew.
My name is Matthew. I've been playing competitive Pokemon since 2013, and I think my best accomplishment is making top cut of nationals every year since 2015.
Nice. And lastly, we've got Curtis.
Hi, my name's Curtis, and I've been playing since 2012, so 8 years now. And probably my favorite accomplishment is going to 2015 Worlds in Boston.
Nice. Alright, so we've got a couple of things on the agenda. This is our first time, so things might be rusty. But, so first things first, I thought we could discuss just a brief overview on how South African meta is different from the rest of the world. I don't know if one of you guys want to kick it off with how things differ. Matthew, maybe you might be best to start this conversation off.
Okay. For one, I think South Africa is usually a few weeks behind kind of major tournaments in America. So we kind of go off the results of what was the most popular decks in bigger tournaments. So essentially we would end up playing decks that counter those to kind of be successful in tournaments here. So it's almost playing like a counter method to what's popular overseas. But then we also have like the most random things sprinkled in between because a lot of our guys don't really follow the international scene as much.
I think for South Africans it might also be a budget thing as well, having to force himself to play rogue techs or rogue versions of meta decks. So basically to sum up what you said, guys are living on sites like Limitless TCG or watching other YouTube channels to find out what people are playing around the world. We've looked, even within South Africa, we've got a break in the meta. I don't know, Curtis, if you would agree with that, like the difference between our provinces as well.
Yeah, I think also the other thing that affects it is your testing groups and your areas and where you play. So like we as a group, the four of us and a few other people that join us, sort of test certain things and work out certain things. And eventually we all just end up playing what we like and out of the stuff we tested. But then with the different regions, you get areas where they all test and then they like one deck and then all of them play the same deck kind of thing sometimes. You find that a lot. Where they all play almost copy for copy the same deck.
Even within
and then
South
also,
Africa,
and then also you get a lot of guys that just want to play for fun and, see their friends from all over the country that come together to sort of regionals of the people that do travel. Just rock up, play for fun, or a dad will bring his son and then the dad will just play in the tournament as well. Instead of leaving the son at the tournament, they'll play and they'll just play random stuff.
And sometimes those random things cause a hiccup for some of the meta decks.
And also I think we don't have as many players in our sort of local tournaments and regionals and things, so it gets a bit difficult because if you had a lot more people, the chances are a lot more people would be playing similar or meta decks. Because we have so few, it's like, okay, maybe 50% play some meta decks and then others play odd meta counters and then others play fun sort of, let's have fun decks and ruin people's days because it's a super counter to what everybody else is playing.
No, for sure.
We run into the occasional Alola Ninetales.
Exactly. And then of course I
ruin people's days because everybody's playing Darkrai. And people quit.
There's something like that. Aaqil, since you raised that now, I mean, with certain like decks standing on the forefront, I mean, if you think about going into a big tournament like a SPE or a League Cup, what influences your decision? I mean, obviously, like Curtis mentioned, the four of us do play test together, which allows us to identify holes in something that we may want to play already. But beforehand, I mean, if you could think the number one thing for you that would like influence your decision, what do you think it would be?
I think what I would normally go for is consistency in the deck. So which would normally be the more meta decks. Like if you look at what is like basically meta now, was still ADP in Zacian. Last time we still had tournaments, I think before
Yeah.
Corona. So consistency in a deck is very, very important for me. Because yes, if you have a deck that's gonna like blow everyone else out the water, but that's only gonna do it one in every 3 games, it's not really ideal. So always consistency for me, and just touching on something you said earlier about the budget. In South Africa, because a lot of people aren't always like really invested in the game. They don't necessarily want to go to Worlds. They may be gonna play regionals or SPEs. It's very, very obvious here in Cape Town. If you just look around, for example, if you look at last season or this season still, something like Malamar, how popular Malamar became when those Battle Arena decks came out, because then Jirachi was available and Malamars were available. So then like everybody was playing Malamar because it's competitive in a sense, depending on obviously how you play the deck, and but it was cheap. So often here in South Africa, in Cape Town at least, but I think also South Africa as a whole, our meta tends to be defined more by the prices of cards as well, not necessarily just the popularity of the card.
Look, I can agree to prices, and also our prices are not necessarily international standards. Because for us it's supply and demand. We have very few single stores or people selling singles in South Africa, and the deepest pockets are going to grab it first, and then it's a scramble for everybody else, right? So yeah, I agree. Budget is a big factor, and there are obviously most of the time you can make budget variants of top meta decks, but then of course we're going to be stepping into the realm of messing around with consistency.
Yeah, so if the deck calls for, let's say, 4 bosses orders, and now you're like, okay, I got 3, so I'm gonna throw in 1 Pokemon catcher, and then the turn you really need it, you get the catcher and you get Tails, and it's like, oh wait, I would have won if I had a 4th boss's orders, and then it becomes kind of a budget thing again, you know?
Yes. So yeah, basically, with South Africa, I'm sure we'll find the same in other third world countries and where Pokemon is less popular. But any country that's not as prominent as UK or maybe obviously USA, Canada, Australia, any of the big like hotspots for Pokemon, we'll be seeing a lot of like mismatch of decks, like a general mix of what you would find. And you'll get like Curtis mentioned, you'll get the father who plays his random deck, and then you'll be playing like Tapulele from Lost Thunder that has those fairy charms that confuses you, and all of a sudden you're making top cut in a SPE. I mean, a shout out to Wayne for making top cut in the last SPE in Cape Town. But yeah, so that's basically a sum up of what our meta looks like.
Yeah.
So the next topic on the agenda is the big shocker of the week, which was the ban cards announcement for Standard. It's not very often that we get ban cards in Standard, and we got 2, being Miss Magius, and I just refer to this card as Bryson, man. I don't know, is it Balalba?
Beloba, I think. I don't know.
Matthew, how do you say this?
I just know I like the card.
I feel like I'll butcher it worse than you guys at the moment.
No, but please give it a go. Curtis?
Balalba and Bryson Man.
Balalba and Bryson Man, okay. So yeah, those
I
are
thought Curtis
You rated Balalba.
Balalba.
You just emphasize the lol as you play the card.
Yeah, I just when I was playing the card, I just referred to it as Bryson Man. So
you refer to it as the Discord 3.
Exactly. I don't think people even realize that this tag team supporter had a second ability, because nobody ever used it for the second ability ever. It was just for the Mole 3, right? So look, just a touch on each of the cards. Matthew, can you maybe cover on where like Miss Magius was played and what decks are going to be taking a loss from it?
Miss Magius basically it's decks that rely heavily on these things,
Yeah.
or that rely on you going down to prizes. I think the way the initial reason it's banned is because it's kind of oppressive to, on your first turn, just go down to 4 prizes and then peace ring, and then maybe even get hit with a reset stamp.
Sorry to butt in, but also the fact that you can draw 7 cards.
Yeah.
Draw up to 7 cards. Like,
I don't think
in
that's
your
much
first
of a look. It's a stage 1, so to get it set up that quickly is still, because you'll need like the dust stone and things like that to
Just
get
the
it like
dust.
on your first
Look,
turn.
I don't. There's something that I don't quite understand. So if I think about the meta, and I mean, you can fill me in if I'm wrong, anybody. But the only deck that I saw this card quite prominent in was Naganadal Gazlord,
Yes.
like with the big beast. And
I mean, there was also Oswald Ferramosa. It was kind of a
yeah.
But it wasn't
It wasn't
trolly
as
version.
Look, it definitely was more trolly. It wasn't as successful. Like the
Yeah.
furthest thing from it. So I'm
The other
just
thing I can think of is maybe it's like a preemptive ban, because I can kind of see it being played with the Ethernidus coming out as well. You
look,
just kind of set up a really fast board state. So maybe they're just like ahead of the curve in what's happening, like through the internal testing, whatever.
although we'll touch on that because of the fact that
Yeah.
you've got Crobat V anyway. That would I thought so. I'll get to my reasoning shortly. But yeah, I just didn't understand that. Bryson Man, on the other hand, look, Mill decks have been in any stall deck has been given quite a boost over the last 2 quarters, I'd say. I mean, more of them making top cut than I think anybody would have imagined. And I guess for that one, I kind of saw it as a little bit more substantiated. I don't know what you guys think.
This is definitely the card that I think should be more talked about, because it's not going to have as big of a. I mean, it's going to have more of an impact on the meta than the Miss Magius, because this is basically killing off a whole archetype by banning
Yes.
it.
Agreed. I mean, this is something that we discussed beforehand already. It's a big loss to control, because it gave majority of control decks a clear direction for victory, something a little bit more aggressive than rather just stalling out. It rushed that, and I mean, we saw a lot of success with the card in Cincino, the whole Cincino stall. Yeah, we saw it in Pidgeotto, you're right as well. Bird flu. I don't know if it was played in anything else off the top of my head, but this band seemed this wasn't preemptive. This seemed like it was reactive
Yeah,
to
that
something that
seems
was
like
happening
it's
in the meta, right?
Look, I get the ban, but I don't know if you think about, obviously we're not really used to bans in Pokemon. It's not like in some other games where you have like, okay, in September there's a list coming out where we know something's gonna be banned, right?
Yeah.
So it just firstly from a money point of view, there might have been people who've now invested in building stall decks. It basically kills the deck in a very big way, and also some people prefer that playing style. Just maybe what they like doing. They like having control over the game, which obviously is just a personal preference to the person playing. So I don't know how I feel about it. Obviously, you guys know that I enjoy that kind of deck, so not really happy.
But if you still look, if we look at purely statistics, looking at limitless TCGs, because look, it's the only place we can look because of the online series that they were running. In qualifier 4, there were 4. There were only 4 decks that made it into the top 32 stall decks. In the limitless,
but I think that has something to do. Sorry to cut you off. But I think it has something to do with it being played online as well, because you have to remember it's not best of 3 when you play online.
It's
It's
best
best
of
of one game.
although
also the
Which
timer.
stall decks,
Yeah.
I think in
stall decks
this,
definitely don't thrive online.
I think in the invitational as well. I think they were playing best out of 3 though, because they were all done private matches, right? I think it was best out of 3 and submitting. I could be wrong, but just to
I'm not sure.
But just to get back
But
to the
also,
statistics,
is it time limited as well?
Yeah.
I would assume so. But yeah, look, in the Limitless Invitational, there was only one in the top 13. And then in the Players Cup Kickoff Invitational, there was none in the top 8. So, I mean, just looking at the last, like, little bit that we have in front of us, it already wasn't doing that well. But for me personally, I feel like it really is a whole archetype that's been, like, being thrown to the curb here.
It's been crippled basically. It's playable, but it's not the same.
Look, people will argue the fact that there's now in the newest sets there's I think it's trick shovel, that when the Pokemon is attacked then the opponent molds 2, but it's by no means the same.
Yeah, definitely, because there's tool scrapper again as well.
It definitely takes away a win condition for stall decks.
Yeah,
because it just allows your opponent to sit back now and hold on to the energies.
I think it was the whole
Cursed shovel. Sorry, that was the card. It's now called Cursed shovel.
I don't say trick shovel is a.
It's an old
from
card.
back in
Cursed
my day.
shovel. Cursed shovels from Rebel Clash. So obviously, just so that everybody's aware that Rebel Clash hasn't arrived in South Africa yet. So our our way to catch cards has become very difficult. But yeah, it is cursed shovel.
I also think the whole reason for this like and that they're looking at is the whole way you can abuse the Lieutenant Surge when the Balalba Bryson man combo with getting it back every turn, which I think that's what one of the things that Pokemon has done is that if there's a game breaking mechanic, like a way that where if something happens, there's no way the other person can win. I tend to change that. I mean, they did it with Lysander's trump card, which I mean, because that was one point that was just ridiculous, playing all 60 cards out in one turn and then just being like, "Cool, I have all my stuff back and you have nothing."
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's weird. It's strange.
Look,
I mean, the mill decks were not mill, but stall decks sort of were there before Bryson Bellerman came.
Yeah.
Or Balalba.
Bryson
man. We'll just call him BB man. BNB man.
BNB man.
And they were doing.
Just refer to that for the rest of the.
And I mean, the sort of stall control decks were doing well before that. I mean, with Articuno and stuff. So
yeah, look,
that just made it even more ridiculous.
Look, you mentioned Lieutenant Surge, but it's Lucamine that brings the cards back and not Lieutenant Surge.
No, Lieutenant Surge just.
You mean the double supporter?
Yes, it allows you to play it twice for sure, but you lose Lucamine now, so you're gonna be relying on pulp pads, and essentially it all comes back down to the Pidgeotto decks, to the Cincino decks, where you've got cards that allow you to mull through, like basically run through your own deck, like empty it out and then have it available, allowing you to basically pulp pad, draw into it, use it, pulp pad, draw into it. But we also lose Oranguru with the resource management. Sorry?
Yeah, the rotational take away resource management, which I think is actually the bigger problem than the Lucamine and the pulp pad.
Why did they need to nerf it like that?
Who knows what they're bringing out now?
Exactly. So yes, I look. I think it comes back around to that. I think it's just a case of we don't know what's coming out next.
What if they bring VS Seeker back?
Then I'll be very happy.
I
still have a lot of them.
The boss's orders cheapest.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's.
I mean, Pokemon is like that. Every now and then you get sort of a similar archetype will come make its way back.
Or the same.
Well, or exactly the same, but otherwise like similar versions of it come back. Because I mean, there's only so much ideas you can come up with without making it too ridiculously complicated and I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see. But that's basically it on, like, those band cards were weird. Look, obviously all the bands go via Japan first. And I think the reason for that is because Japan obviously has more sets than us. So
But they also run through expanded.
They run, yeah, through expanded as well, but they've also got cards that haven't been released yet. And then you basically have this weird scenario where they can predict that things are going to be a problem before we do. And realistically, anything that gets banned in Japan generally gets banned for us as well. So yeah, erratas included. But yeah, that's basically the ban cards. So now moving on to the bulk of the conversation is the old versus new. So there was a method to my madness. There was a reason why I involved so many people, is because myself personally, I haven't been playing competitive for that long. I played competitive in 2014 as well. I think Matthew was around your time as well, and then I took a hiatus, and then I came back approximately 4 years ago, and I've been playing competitively since. So there's lots of holes in my competitive history, and just to describe. So I got a random question from one of the people in my league saying that how are cards so expensive before they even come out already? Like, somebody was wondering why Crobat is already like pre-order prices at $40, and basically, obviously, with them probably being new to the game, they didn't quite understand why these cards have already got such a big mark on them, and that's why I thought this would be an interesting discussion. So basically, Pokemon has a habit of reprinting archetypes, reintroducing cards with the same ability or same attack that once existed before, which had done well in the past. And yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to go over some of the cards that we have currently, or cards that are going to be coming out, and why they are probably going to be good according to how they did previously. So yeah, the first one on the list is, we can start with the question, is Crobat V. So I don't know, Matthew, if you want to talk about Crobat V and its old counterpart being Shaman EX.
Yeah, sure. So basically, Crobat V is going to be used for its ability more than anything. Well, mainly for its ability.
Yeah.
Which, when you play it down, you have 6 cards, which in time like this, when you have cards like Boss's Orders, and you can't afford to play supporters every turn. That's like a really good ability to have. Also, it kind of speeds up your playstyle through just being able to cycle through your deck at a really quick rate. It's, as you said, similar to Shaman EX. With a slight nerf, as you can only play one per turn now.
You can only use one ability per turn, yeah. Well, one of that particular ability. But obviously,
the ability is so good that it's going to be played in basically every deck.
It's the same way that the Dene had that line at the bottom that you could only use one did it change per turn.
Yeah, but this one really has very little drawback, as you're not discarding your hand. You can play your hand down to one card being Crobat. You can draw fresh 6 through an ability and then still go through your support for that turn. It's just going to be crazy. I mean, it's also 180, 1-star retreat, so it doesn't have much drawback to it. But yeah, basically it's going to be played in every deck. It's going to be that good, so that's why the prices are kind of hiked up.
Yes.
Just because like veteran players know how good this ability is.
Correct.
If you look back to Shaman, Shaman EX wasn't just played in Rayquaza, it was played in everything. At least 1 or 2, if not 3 or 4. But
Sometimes
it was played in everything. Yeah, it was played in every single day. Like the Dene was as well. Obviously, you get like the weird decks in between that don't play it, but I mean, majority of the meta
also
decks will play
to that, it can be, you can quick pull for it. So discarding the card out your hand to search for. Well, you're basically getting 2 cards to get the Crobat out of your deck to just draw 6 more.
Do we think
up to 6
that Crobat is going to be played alongside the Dene in some decks?
I don't
Yes.
see it. I think I see the DNA falling very much out of
Yeah.
favor for the future.
I'm sure certain decks are still going to.
Yeah. People are
Yeah,
probably
I
going
think
to
it would
prefer it.
depend. Like for example,
Well, if you're playing
for
the radar
Mad
in your deck,
Party,
yeah,
for
Yeah,
a deck like Mad Party, you're gonna want to most likely play the Dene.
yeah, because you want to get the cards in the discard pile.
Yeah, so I guess depending, maybe some decks will even play a mixture of both. Although if you do, I'm assuming you'd want more Crobat Vs than the Denes, obviously.
Yeah,
But it could
so
also
yeah.
just be nice to get rid of like bad or unplayable cards later on in the game.
yeah, so Crobat V is essentially getting a whole lot of hype talk, and it's for me. Besides the fact that it's an amazing utility card, Pokemon's doing what Pokemon does again, and basically releasing cards that immediately, like, without even reading too much into it, are a good pair.
Yeah.
And as we've had before in the past, we've had Wilder and Reshiram and Charizard get released in the same set, so you know that they're bound to be together. Um,
Yeah.
in this, we've got Crobat and Eternatus.
Eternatus.
Something like that. Yeah.
Is this another one where we're all going to take a chance how to say it?
EV Max.
EV Max. Eternatus.
I
Yeah, I would
feel
go with that.
pretty confident calling it Eternatus.
Eternatus, cool. Eternatus
Like
it is.
like it, yeah.
So yeah, that's basically why it's getting all the hype. Because it's a dark Pokemon, and just to segue into that card, something new borrowed from something old. His Eternal Zone ability allows you that basically if all of your Pokemon in play are dark, you may have up to 8 Pokemon on your bench, which sounds a little similar. It sounds like something old, Curtis. What do you think?
Yeah.
It sounds like Skyfield.
It sounds just like
Yeah.
Skyfield, doesn't it? Except it's
Except
just
at
you,
least, at least it says you can't put non-dark Pokemon into
Yeah.
play.
yeah.
So no the Dene.
And if you do, then it stops working.
So yeah,
But I mean, to have that on an ability is also like a lot better than what Skyfield was.
because it's not as easily
Yeah,
counted.
it's not
I
a
mean,
stadium.
we don't
Yeah.
have many cards that's taking out abilities at the moment outside of Galarian Wheezing. That is essentially what Garbatoxin was, but it needs to be in the active, so it's not as good. It's not seeing as
Yeah.
much play. Well, it's not going to anyway. But look, and the attack is exactly the same as Emerald Break, except it's for
Yep.
2 energies, which is crazy, right? It does 30 damage for each of your dark Pokemon in play. So we're looking at a maximum of 270. And although
Which is massive.
although in the VMAX era now, 270 is not necessarily a 1-hit KO, but it's still
Yeah.
big damage, and Eternatus has got 340, so it's also quite a monster itself.
Yeah.
So
The other thing is, looking through previous sets that will be in standard through the next rotation, I really don't see much beating,
Yeah.
like, returning KOs on Eternatus.
because fighting's taking a big knock.
Yeah. And ironically, the card that will probably affect this card the most has just been banned out of the format.
Yeah, look,
Well, there we go. Maybe it was a preemptive ban.
Yeah.
it's if anything, if it's a card that's going to be messing around with what Pokemon sees as its cash cow,
Yes, exactly.
you know, they're trying to protect it. Look, on the topic of the deck, we've got like other inclusions. I mean, all Pokemon have to be dark, so we know we're playing this. We know we're playing Crobat V. There's
Four
Yes.
four, of course.
Evil.
Then there's
There goes your
I
whole
see
paycheck.
Zigzagoon,
there's
probably.
the Galarian Zigzagoon will probably get play with it as well. As like with Scoop Up Net, it should be seeing some play. And then of course there's the Hooper, which again
Yeah.
the Hooper is like Hooper's like Zapdos from Team Up, where it does more damage. Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Hooper
It doesn't do damage
it doesn't do
unless
damage if
it
it
comes
didn't
from
come
the
off the
bench.
bench, yeah. But it does 90, so the base damage is 10 higher. But you are looking at it needs to cycle basically. And then you've got the new dark energy, the hiding energy, which gives the dark Pokemon is attached to free retreat. So everything kind of works. This whole deck has been mapped out like in front of you. And then we've got another old card in Rose.
And if you look at what you were just saying now, like, sorry, before we carry on, Carl, if you go to, firstly we mentioned the Skyfield. It's basically Skyfield plus was it Mega Rayquaza X, right?
Yes.
Plus then it's getting, which those
Shaman.
two together was already basically a BDIF at the time, right? Then it's getting Shaman, which was obviously with the deck, plus the ability of Darkrai.
Yes.
Which is like insane. It's getting like bits and pieces of all the best cards of a few years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, in to 2-3 cards.
Correct.
Which is crazy.
And we're looking at like there's things that we might be overseeing here. Like with Zigzagoon in the deck, they could be playing a couple of like maybe a 1 or 2 of Obstagoon as well. Although Obstagoon is falling more and more off the radar because everything's pointing more towards VMAX, so the basic Pokemon thing. But it would still be a good tech either way, alright? So it's an option. It just seems like there's so much going for this deck, as well as you've got Rose, which is essentially Mega Turbo. Yeah. Which is crazy, and the stadium works. The stadium works with Crobat because Rose, the supporter card, I'll put an image up. Rose is basically you discard your hand and attach 2 energies from your discard pile to one of your VMAX. It's a supporter. But then you've got Rose's Stadium, which basically says once during your turn, you may draw 3 cards. And one of those 3 cards could be a Crobat. You play the Crobat and you're drawing up to 6. So it's crazy. Like the synergy for this deck straight out of the box is not right. Some other things we might be seeing is Weavile GX. We could be seeing some Weavile GX in there.
Yeah.
To allow those energies to move around. That's another option. There's it's crazy. That's all I can say. I don't know.
This has been something that's been going on in Pokemon for a while, though. To be fair, where a new set comes out and then
and it wrecks.
All the cards in that set is for one deck.
If you think about it,
yeah.
I know Pokemon's been doing that for a while, but not only are all the cards in that set for the deck, but also you've got the deck. Like, if you think historically, a set comes out just before Worlds. How many Worlds have gone past where a card from the latest set wins Worlds?
Well, it happened in the past year.
It's happened a few times. Mew 3, Gardevoir, Zoroark. It's mad.
Well, to be fair, Zoroark was around for a while in that world that it's.
Not just winning worlds, but like also being in the top. Like you could just say being in the top 8. The Plasma deck came out and came second.
Yeah, the Darkrai deck when Dark Explorers came out, won worlds.
It was almost everywhere.
Virizion and Genesect.
Yep.
Straight out the bat.
Yeah.
So they're basically telling you, if we're giving you this deck, that we're giving it to you, that's a cut out for you already. Buy it and you'll do well. Build it and you'll do well. But obviously buy it in a more realistic sense, because nobody has time to pull 4 or 3 of each of those cards.
I think.
At least.
On a side tangent, my favorite part about playing Pokemon is when it gets closer to Worlds, just before they release the last set, because there's so much cards that you can actually use in the pool, which makes it a lot better. I always wasn't a big fan of like directly after Worlds for the first couple of months, because everybody's playing the same thing. And
yes,
I was always a big fan of National Tournament.
Yeah, our Nationals was always a month or a couple of weeks before Worlds.
Yeah, before the new set.
Yeah.
Which doesn't break the meta.
It also allows kind of
variety play.
Not that just, but it allows like the kind of better players to shine through more in the format where you actually have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because a deck like this would come out now, like the Ethanitis deck, and you can actually just roll, like, not to be harsh, but like an average player could like roll over some, like,
Yeah.
a person that's a better player in general,
Yeah. Yes.
just because
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
Especially
that
in South
prevents.
Africa, because
Yeah.
a lot of it depends on who has enough money to get the new
Mm.
stuff before everybody else is able to kind of scrape together their allowance and salaries and stuff to get the
So,
car.
Yeah.
I've gone silent because I was just thinking about the fact that I still can't get over the fact that Mega Odino won Worlds. That's
Oh, yeah.
I can't
Bro,
get over that. That's
A
crazy.
new card released breaks the meta.
Well, yeah, it was. I think it was McGinna, right?
Yeah, that's the one that broke it.
Yeah.
McKenna EX.
But if you think about it, I'm just going through the history as we're speaking. So God of War got released in 2017. God of War won with Diego Caseraga. Robin Schultz won with Zorak, although Zorak was released that year, but not recent, like straight off.
Kind of towards the beginning of the year.
Correct. But still, Zorak won. And not to speak about all the internationals that were won by Todd with Zorak already. And then you've got Mew 3 that was released in 2019, just before Worlds. And again, Henry Brand takes the win with Mew 3 as well. So it just shows that Pokemon really does try and push that agenda. Although it doesn't take anything away from how I feel about the game. I'm very passionate about it.
No,
but
of course,
it does point towards that way. So getting back
I
onto
would
topic
prefer
again.
them to kind of, sorry
Yeah?
to break the word again. I would prefer them to kind of not make it as obvious. Or if you can release a deck in the set, kind of make it more skill intensive.
Or split it over 3 sets.
Oh, that split it up so that you can build your deck as they come out. Like you're not expected to build the entire thing.
Yeah,
in one
well,
set.
look, I mean, it's been happening for a while. I think since
I don't see it stop happening now.
Team Up,
I don't see
Team
them
Up
stopping
is
it.
when it started getting blatant from Team Up, right? Team Up had Pikarom, and then of course it had Pikarom and it had Zapdos and Jirachi. Like that was going to be the winning formula for that, right? So and from that point, it kind of started escalating. I think after Team Up was Unbroken Bonds, right?
Yeah,
Which was Wilder and Reshizard.
Charizard. Yeah.
So there's been something consistently every set. But anyway, I want to get back onto the old versus new. I know we've been steering around. So let's talk about Jirachi EX was played in almost every single deck. And when Tapulele GX was announced, we knew that it was going to get some serious play. I think Tapulele GX had more hype than Dene. It had more hype than Crobat V's got right now. But I think it's also because of the
It's
fact...
been a while as well before they had, like between Jirachi, hadn't it?
No, but besides the gap, Tapulele GX was, I think it was also quite hyped because of the fact that we had just lost VS Seeker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also that is, well, similar attack to what Mewtwo had, except no
Oh, yes,
No
yes.
weakness, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it could actually attack.
it could attack with a double colorless, which
And
means
at high
it could
HP.
attack in any deck, like any deck.
And at high HP, which helped.
So with Tapulele being old, like it's really not relevant anymore. What about Aldegos V? This card, I thought that it was going to be played, and it turns out that not really. I mean, what do you think the reason is for that? I mean, I know it's taking a supporter out of the discard pile, but I mean, I still feel like it could be semi-decent. It attacks with the double colorless. Obviously, double colorless is out now, but you could put it in a fire deck and a wilder to it. Obviously, you'll be using the supporter for the turn, but I mean, I just thought that it would get some more play. I'm not quite sure why. I
think the main reason is because both decks play 4 of
with regards to supporters.
have like
The other reason
one-off
is
supporters and stuff.
if
So
you
you
look
don't
at
need to find
supporters now, they're kind of weaker compared to supporters of the past, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
because you could, like we were talking about Lysander Strum card earlier, you could actually go for Jirachi into Lysander Strum card from a level ball, or get a Lysander or a Guzma from Double Lele.
Well, I feel like the most important one is N.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having at 5th N and just like,
But I mean, N is more of a disruptive card, and if you play in the Aldegross late game, you kind of clearly behind. Like, you don't want to be doing it because you're taking up a bench space with a 180 useless attacker.
Look, potentially, is it not maybe also got to do with the fact that fire is still quite prominent at the moment?
yeah.
I mean, Aldegoss
I don't actually think that's much of a issue because basically anything one shots this in the current format doesn't it?
Well, I mean, you could be taking a knockout with a Volcanion on this guy.
Yeah. Or maybe Blacephalon, if that makes it.
But that knocks out anything.
Yeah, but I mean, you can knock it out with 2 energies.
Also, I think like this format has been more support Pokemon orientated in terms of bench space is really vital. Whereas back in the day, if you look at the Darkrai sort of time, literally I needed to have 1 or 2 Darkrai out, and then you could play support Pokemon. Like, you didn't need to have the support Pokemon, but if you needed it, you could play it. And
yeah, they were like very situational.
Yes.
Whereas now it's like, okay, cool, I need to have ADP out, I need to have Zacian out, I need to have this one out, I need to have
multiple
that one
Zacian basically.
Yeah. Oh, I need to have a Jirachi out.
Look, I'm definitely not writing this card off. I feel it could get played later. It's just not getting played right now.
I don't think it's the right time. Yeah, it's not the right time for it.
Also, I think
from your spiking.
Yeah, from your Discord pile is also not as good as just grabbing anything from your deck. I mean, if
because if it's turn 1,
2 supporters, then okay, cool. I must do this now.
Remember, VS Seeker was super broken, but that was also due to the fact that you could what's the?
It was an item card.
Tyler or something. No. But it was an item though. Like, it didn't take up a spot. It didn't give away prizes.
Yeah, you could Skylar for it. You could Trainer's Mail for it.
I'm having a old man moment. What's the card?
Are you thinking of Trainer's Mail?
No, the card that allowed you to discard 3 cards out of your deck.
Battle Compressor.
Oh, Battle Compressor.
You had Battle Compressor, which made VS Seeker
so
strong.
I think if
but
Aldegoss
they were same set, just like we saying.
Yeah. If Aldegoss was in the same set as Battle Compressor, then probably see more play with it. Because there's no card. Well, there's very few cards that can search for supporters. So if you had Battle Compressor to put them in your discard pile, at least you had a choice of what you could get.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
And the float up is literally basically the exact same as Sky Return from Shaman.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally exactly the same.
The difference is Shaman had double colorless and Aldegoss doesn't.
Aldegoss does have double colorless.
It doesn't.
It doesn't have a
no.
Doesn't have double colorless in format.
Actual
energy.
Oh, you mean in the format? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Just to add on to Kurt's point earlier about the bench space, if you look at like the support Pokemon that you want to be using, this is like 4th on the list of what you want to put in your deck. Like, you'd always throw the Dedenne in your deck before Aldegross or 3 Jirachi.
Yeah.
So I think it's just very low down on the list of must-haves.
True.
Which is why I don't see it playing much.
I've seen 1 or 2, like 1 copy of it in certain decks and stuff, but not in the main decks.
I've noticed. Look, I have seen it like pop up here and there, but not really
in the
prominent.
fire decks, I've seen it a few times. But
look, next rotation we will lose Team Up, so we'll lose Jirachi and we will lose Dedenne. So perhaps we would be looking at using Crobat with a 1 of Aldegoss if we're talking Sword and Shield and up. But now we're speaking about 2021 rotation, and that's.
I really like it with bosses orders.
Yeah, look, I think it's versatile.
Like, I think we need like a bosses orders in the format. Like, I think we've always needed kind of a catcher card.
Well, it showed when custom catcher got so much play.
Yeah. Like, and it's needed for the format because it stops people from just sitting behind a big store Pokemon for 6 turns charging up. Correct. Something random on the bench, like a Venusaur Snivy or something like that.
Yeah, agreed.
While you can do nothing about it.
No, I agree.
So I think I actually like Aldegoss's Sprint team because now you don't have to play 4 bosses orders. You can just play 2 or 3 and then...
Yeah, and then it allows you to add some more tech into your deck.
Yeah.
Make space. So just trickling down again, so going down some of the other ones that I've made notes of from old versus new. So we had Puzzle GX did a lot for its format, and it was basically a copy of Landorus EX, but again, a card that's a little less relevant. We were already speaking about Encino Lock earlier, and that being very similar to Zoroark Lock, just with trade after trade after trade, allowing you to draw out your deck. But again, less relevant now, thanks to what you said, Curtis. It's BNB man,
B&B
right?
man. If you
BNB
need
man.
to-
B&B, man.
if you're looking for a place to stay, phone B&B man.
BNB man is gone, so we don't really have to worry about that. Let's talk about Dragapult. I was thinking maybe it might be a stretch. So I was thinking Dragapult is similar to the way bats used to be played.
In a way, I think it is not to the
Also
same
not,
extent
yeah.
because Dragapult's the main attacker,
Yeah.
whereas bats didn't really attack much. They would sit behind Landorus while Landorus spread damage.
Correct. Yeah.
But I will say that I really enjoy playing this kind of decks. It's actually my main deck online at the moment,
damage spread.
and because I like the thinking part of the game more than anything,
Yes.
Yeah.
and playing decks that you need to actually concentrate and make the right plays consistently.
No, true.
And working the math out and not just,
It's
okay, I'm
funny.
going to do 500 damage to your 270 HP Pokemon, so I know it's
Yeah.
not out.
It's
Yeah.
so
Or
funny
like-
because
you-
I'm laughing at you talking about your deck online at the moment. I've taken such a break that my main deck online is Cataday with damage spread. That's my main right now. You people,
Because, you know, also,
you laugh. I've been
the
winning
not
tournaments with
thinking-
that.
when sometimes you'll get players who would just play, for example, a deck that's doing massive damage, right? And I feel like if you get into that habit, wanting to be a really competitive player who actually wants to win tournaments regularly, and you start playing these just like big damage oriented decks, and it's like, I mean, we've all experienced players before just being like, X-Ball. Not even being like, okay, I'm doing 180 damage, just like X-Ball, and then wanting to take prizes. And it gets to a lazy point where things happen and you're like, X-Ball, trying to take your prize, and they're like, yeah, but that does 160 damage, I've got 170 HP, and then you're there holding a loss in your hands.
Shit. You sound like you've got PTSD, Aaqil. That doesn't sound like you.
No, I'm definitely talking from the other side of the table.
Are you the guy with the 170?
I'm the guy with I'm the guy who was like, yeah, but you played it down. My Gobotoxin is here. You can't take it back. I'm sorry. This is the final of a tournament.
Shame.
At that game. So you know, it create, like Matthew's saying, he enjoys the thinking part of it more than anything else. Being able to outthink an opponent is much more advantageous for you as a player, not specifically just in a game, but for you as your development as a player, as opposed to just,
Definitely.
I'm gonna knock you out with a lot of damage. So definitely, even just keeping yourself on your toes, decks like that. I mean, we might think it's funny because like, oh, you're playing damage spread, but yeah, especially if you're able to win with it, it shows your level of being of thinking as a player, if I can put it like that.
Wise words from grandfather time.
I think
Yeah.
getting back to the topic, the main difference is that Dragapult is not as support as what Crobat
Was to Landorus.
was. Yeah, because I think if you remember correctly, Crobat had Golbat, which did basically the same thing, except it was only 2 damage counters. And then the Crobat's obviously 3 damage counters. But then you also, I mean, the Crobat's attack was, you know, does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon.
Yeah.
For 1 energy. But the fact that it had free retreat,
Yes,
you
definitely.
could play 4-4, 3-4-4-4 if you wanted to. And I think there was still Scoop Up or Scoop Up Cyclone in the format as well. So
There was definitely a pickup card.
yeah, reapplying all the
AZ maybe.
AZ was also there as well.
Yeah.
I think Scoop Up Cyclone was around when Landers was around because it was an A-Spec. So there must have been
Yeah,
Scoop
yeah.
Up as well.
I think it rotated out as Spats came into the format.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like the this card's name now. The
Super
Dragapult is just also
Oh.
it applies pressure more than Crobats did.
Okay.
In terms of
Of course.
like physical, like
Yeah, yeah.
you know, 100 whatever damage
That's
and years damage to that and that.
That's called power creeping, and that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But, maybe episode 2.
But I think it's actually a good card in this format because of how much this format is. Okay, cool. There's one. That's one shot. Cool. That's
okay. I attach 4 energies. You did. Okay.
did.
Like
Yeah.
No, for sure. Okay. So Dragapult bats not so much alike. Maybe again, like this
also
is me,
are like
but also are like this is me stretching again.
Same but different.
same but different. A Reshizard being similar, and I'll state my case now. Reshizard being similar to Big Basics. Okay, so we had Chorus Machine for Big Basics. We've got Wilder. We had Genesect EX in Big Basics. We've got Ninetales. We had Thunderous EX in Big Basics. We've got Victini from Dragon.
also.
Okay, you're talking about plasma basics.
Yeah.
Plasma Big Basics, yeah.
Also, Reshizard is very similar to the Charizard EX that was out when Blacksmith was out.
Blacksmith, there we go. Yeah.
Where you didn't
attaching from the discard pile, right?
Attaching from the discard pile, except you couldn't draw cards, so very much more balanced than what Wilder
power
was.
creeping.
But the difference is it wasn't a big archetype because you had Genesect and you had Darkrai in that format, and you had and the Charizard wasn't played as much because it was literally the Charizard that you needed to have the Charizard, a muscle band, and maybe a laser to do the 180 because I think it did 150. And then the muscle band obviously did 20, and then the hypnotoxic laser did 10. So it wasn't as, as overpowered as not overpowered, but as strong as what Reshizard is now, but it was definitely in the format at that time. And you had things like Shaman to draw extra cards, all that kind of stuff. And you had Metal Compressor as well, which helped.
So it was basically okay to play utility support because you had other things drawing cards for you.
Yeah.
Similar to the
but at that time wasn't Yveltal still a thing when that Charizard came out? Because I think it was Flash Fire. So then you couldn't afford having like 3 energy on your Charizard.
Exactly, you're asking to get knocked out.
The Charizard with the muscle band definitely one-shot Yveltal until the Hard Charms came out. That's his favorite deck in the
That's the very first tournament I've ever won also that deck.
So
also the Hard Charm.
Definitely some similarities in those archetypes.
I mean, the Charizard, Reshizard, and the Reshizard and the old Charizard. I mean, Pokemon knows that everybody loves Charizard.
Yeah.
So you just put one decent Charizard and everybody's gonna go crazy.
Splashing a Charizard GX into Mew 3 as well, which was also a problem.
Not just one, a Reshizard and then a normal Charizard.
I just also you were speaking about Yveltal, and you guys mentioned Darkrai. Another similarity, well, it's not even a similarity, it's in your face, Dark Patch versus Metal Saucer. It's exactly the same card versus Aqua Patch, which absolutely
literally
nothing.
Was the same name.
But it did nothing because water Pokemon sucked at the time. Etienne, if you're going to listen to this, I'm sorry. I know you love water, but it really was bad. So
I think you could only play Lapras, and even then,
Lapras wasn't taking any KOs. Only when Choice Band rotated, it was. Besides that, even with Choice Band, Lapras was just a bad play.
It was fun.
It was it's exactly that. It was fun, while it lasted. So there was Dark Patch and Metal Saucer. Metal Saucer obviously seeing a lot of play in like the Turbozation builds now. I think Metal Saucer saw a lot more play with the new Galarian Meowth that came out that allowed you to discard 2 cards and evolve. Because you had the Galarian Berserker that it boosts damage now. So you basically discard 2 cards from your hand to go get the Berserker. You've already boosting up by 20. The 2 cards discarding is potential metal energies, which are metal sorcering and attacking immediately. So there's a lot of synergy with regards to Metal Saucer and the metal decks that's floating around.
I don't think it's as good as Dark Patch was, though.
Yeah.
Probably
and I have
not.
the reason behind it. Because even though they do the same thing with a very good Pokemon that they work with in Zacian and Darkrai, Dark Patch also had Sableye to like constantly recycle them,
Oh, the
And
junk
Ultra
hunt.
Ball.
which is what it really made it. Sableye made the
Yeah.
Darkrai deck good.
Yeah.
Like Darkrai wasn't going to work without Sableye being a card.
I mean, before then, it worked with the Smeargle and the
Sky
Shaman. The Shaman.
The Shaman.
Oh,
yeah,
and
but
the
the
Shaman.
Smeargle and Sableye were of the same, or the
Yeah.
same kind of
Yeah.
And it was the old
cut
Shaman.
from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also with Dark Patch, there was Ultra Balls, there was Computer Search. There was just a lot of ways of getting rid of cards as well. And I mean, everybody literally
You
just
could-
in the Darkrai deck, you just
Yeah.
played Professor Juniper, which is basically Professor Sycamore, and Ed.
Four
That
in,
was your
Which is
two
now
supporters.
Professor's Research.
Yeah, and those
Yeah.
are your 2 supporters. And you literally just drew through your deck, got rid of all of your energies, Dark Patched it up. If you couldn't KO anything with the Darkrai, you just put the Sableye out, get resources back. So
And then repeat.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is definitely. I mean, that was
and then
definitely.
the Toxic Laser, Verbank City in the format, random receiver.
Yeah.
That was
That was
crazy.
also random receiver was also big.
I'm still waiting for Random Receiver to get a reprint. I feel like it's going to sooner or later.
Yeah, I'm
Because
sure.
everything does eventually.
Everything does. It all comes
Yeah.
around full circle. So some other cards that I just earmarked, we can speed through. Galarian Wheezing being the same as Garbotoxin, obviously a little bit worse, like I mentioned earlier, with regards to it having to be the active. We had Frostmoth.
Well, it makes it Boba Fett essentially.
Well, yeah,
Basically,
well,
yeah.
but it's
exactly.
also an evolution, and the retreat you need that
Yeah.
hiding energy for it to get out, because there's no
But there's no float stones.
correct. Frostmoth, which was supposed to be like the Luge Blastoise, but it really wasn't, because it just isn't.
As you said, what?
Well, there's no water attackers.
I
And
feel
Blastoise
sorry.
fair-
relied on things.
To be fair, Blastoise also didn't really have a good water attacker. It used. It did
Black
have one in the
Kyurem.
beginning, but then it used Black Kyurem.
Yeah, okay,
Which
well,
just-
Black
Blastoise became a nuking deck.
Yeah,
where you could just power up something huge, and then that thing just swept the game.
correct.
And then
And
obviously
now there's
with-
nothing
I
that
mean,
works
there
with
was
it.
Keldeo and Mewtwo as well. Mewtwo obviously
Yeah.
not being water, but Keldeo was a water attacker with its Russian. So
but it wasn't
was
like
decent.
it wasn't
different
decent,
one,
but
it wasn't Black Ballista.
Yes,
Yeah.
which only needed 4 energies to do 200.
Only?
whereas the Keldeo
Only.
needed
Well,
more.
you
Yeah,
can you
Also,
can say
Blastoise
only
had
4
Tropical
energies.
Beach to work with.
Well,
Yeah.
not,
And I
not
mean,
in South Africa.
In fairness, not here. It saw very little results here, but I mean, in the States, they had Beach, which made it 100 times better than without Beach.
I've still got my
And it's worth noting.
I got my expanded Archie's Blastoise in my drawer here still.
I mean,
It's
to
worth
be fair,
noting
also,
that
Yeah.
even though they did 200 damage, Pokemon capped out at like 180 back then.
Yes.
170
Yeah.
and 180.
So it was literally overkill for no reason.
But then also, Jacob Van Wagner won Worlds with Blastoise, and that was like a rogue version of Blastoise because you didn't actually play Wartortle or Squirtle. I think that's what also made it popular, is that you could just Archie's Ace in the Hole, he has a Blastoise. Cool, I'm
Yeah,
drawing
I actually
5
think that
cards.
deck's perfect to show the strengths of Shaman at the
Yeah.
time.
I'm drawing 5 cards because that's what Archie said.
I think they
Yeah.
called it the Honest Toys, if I remember,
Yeah.
Okay.
which later turned
Yeah.
into Archie's Blastoise.
I mean, that was, it didn't have a specific attacker, but it had situational attackers.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you played a few different attackers which helped. I mean,
Also, there's
It was
nothing
the Phil
really much
Keldeo.
you can do about getting a Keldeo with 3-4 energies on its first turn and then not having an answer to it next turn. It's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous.
Look, if I'm looking at the deck now, the deck played 3 Caldio EX. It played
Which was the main
an
attacker.
Articuno,
It also
Mewtwo,
played-
and Wailord.
The
Also
Wailord was
played-
to counter the Night March decks, yeah.
Yeah.
Also played 2 Shaman, 2 Jirachi, 4 Battle Compressor. I mean, if you look at it, there's like a ton of stuff just to get rid of cards so you can have nothing in your hand and just have
Superior energy
water and
retrieval for
Yep.
discarding as well.
The
So yeah.
point we get into is Frostmoth is compared to Blastoise is a terrible card.
Look, Archie's
Yeah.
Blastoise is this is essentially Archie's Blastoise. I mean, I've got the deck, like I said, in expanded, and like 9 games out of 10, I have a turn 1 Blastoise. 9 games out of 10, like
So it was meant to do?
without fail.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting flashback, but something that's creeping slowly under the radar, and probably it's going to be the last mention for the old versus new, is Mad Party versus Night March.
Oh, yes.
Night March was the scum of the earth. Luckily, I wasn't playing during that time.
excuse me, I played that for Worlds, okay? Because I went to have fun at Worlds and I played that. Because I didn't
Here's a
feel
fun
like
fact.
testing.
At the Nationals in 2016, I think it was, in the top 8, there were 6 of the decks were Night March decks. And the other 2 was a Greninja and a Scizor. And the Greninja and Scizor played each other in top 8. So that's how much of a nuisance Night March was at the time.
And let me just check quickly, did Greninja brick?
Yes, it did.
Ah, yeah.
Let's not bring up the past.
Go figure.
Oh, were you the Greninja player?
Oh, word.
And this is after extensive testing that Greninja does beat Night. Did not.
Well, I heard the only
Also-
way you win finals with Greninja is by lapping one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
I actually won a game in my top 4.
Oh, but it took me a while to get that.
Good to see.
also in that last March was also part of that. I mean, it's kind of similar
Last
to that, but
March,
different.
and yes, we could add that to the flop list, right?
Yeah.
I played Last
Yeah.
March for a little while, and that was purely for fun, and it was a glass cannon. Like you're knocking out
did
big
you have
things.
fun?
I had a lot of fun.
Sometimes.
I had fun playing with a deck that maybe cost me 200 rand, and
Yeah,
I
fair.
was taking out decks that cost maybe 2,000 rand.
Which is
So-
like what? Which is like what? $10 compared to $100.
$10 versus $100.
Yeah.
Budget Brady. So yeah, that's
I'll be honest, I don't know much about Mad Party because I haven't been keeping up with the Kardashians, as they say. Keeping up with the latest. But, yeah, I don't know if one of you want to explain it to me.
so it
It's
works.
basically-
It works
yeah,
essentially
okay.
the same as what Night March does.
Is the
So-
attack called Mad Party?
It's called Mad Party,
Yeah.
and it
Wild.
does 20
That's all I want to say
damage.
to that.
It does 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in the discard pile that has Mad Party, and also it attacks for double colorless. And we've got Twin Energy now, which is a double colorless for Pokemon that's not a V or a GX. So that's going
Do
to
we
be.
have...
How
do
much
we have a
Mad
battle
Party attackers
compressor?
are there?
There are 4. There's the Teapot guy, there's the weird Mr. Mime guy, there's a Bunnelby, and there's a Dedenne.
But do we have Battle Compressor?
We do
No,
not
we do
have
not.
Battle Compressor, but we
You
do
know what
have,
else we have now?
We do have the Dedennes,
We have.
Professor Research.
We also have Pokemon with 340 HP, so this deck isn't going to be good. Listen to me, clip it. People listening in the on YouTube here.
So,
This
so
deck
that's
is not going to be
20
good.
20 for each Mad Party, and you've got 4, 8, 16. So if you have 15, you can do 300. Close enough.
Yeah, but then they knock out your Pokemon and then?
And then
And
you
you
play.
Realize why you don't play
Ordinary
Mad
Rod.
Party.
And then you realize why you don't play Mad Party.
I'll
Look,
be honest.
You know
it's
what's
probably
sad?
gonna Be a meme deck. That
We
I'm
can,
gonna play.
No, it's going to be sad. Because you're going to come to a tournament and there's going to be like 4 people playing this deck. That's exactly what's going to happen.
for
Because
me,
they're going to be like, it's so good.
there is one.
then-
I'll be one of them.
For me, there's a bigger problem with Mad Party, though. If you think about this for just a second, the only 2 attackers in Mad Party is the Dene and Bunnelby. because of the fact that it's a Mr. Grime, I think it is, which is the evolution to Mr. Mime.
The evolution.
And then there's that
Senior teapot.
Teapot Geist, whatever. I really need to get better with this. But
I'm actually.
you know what? I blame COVID for the reason for me not knowing these names, because these things have not come to South Africa yet. But anyway, the Dene's got 70 HP and Bunnelby's got 40. Dragapult is going to.
It's going to be fun watching someone play Zigzagoon and 4 screw up nets and winning the game.
We can literally say that it's going to be Dragapult is going to have a field day with this thing.
Like, what do you think if they didn't ban BNB, man, in a deck like that? Would it not have helped the deck out a bit, hoping to maybe mull your Mad Party Pokemon?
Yeah, but I just think playing the Dene and Professor's Research would be so much quicker.
And more consistent.
Yeah.
To know you're not going to get rid of your twin energy.
Yeah, so that's basically that. I mean, that's... Yeah. So, that's old versus new.
Okay. Just before you finish, Teapot Man's name is Poltegeist.
Poltegeist, yes. That's it. Poltegeist.
It's quickly the best
go
name
to our
of
Pokemon.
The best name is Sinisty, which is its
The basic. It's the basic Sinisty.
Sinisty, and then Poltegeist.
And Galarian Mr. Grime. Who is the evolution to Mr. Mime.
Jesus.
I think they could have just stopped it at Mr. Mime and called it a day, to be
I
honest.
think so too, yeah.
But yeah. So cool. So that's basically old versus new. There's so many more topics to speak about, but
we were gonna speak about Malamar and Electric.
Yes, of course. That's an obvious one that I missed out. So obviously Electric being very popular with the old Rayquaza EX, and Malamar being
Even before
Malamar
that
for as long as it was.
Zekrom.
Even before that, also with Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Immediately, basically, when Electric came out, I think the set before that, Zekrom came out. Zekrom was black and white. I'm talking about the Outrage Zekrom now.
Yeah, the normal one.
So when Electric came out, obviously there was Embo that came out with in black and white, and obviously Electric came out in Emerging Powers, I think. So when Embo was like, I mean, if I remember correctly, it was a really good deck at the time because it was just, well, I'm gonna put 3 energy on my Reshiram and then take a knockout. I'm talking about
was around with Typhlosion, if I'm not mistaken.
Typhlosion, yes, Typhlosion Prime.
From like hardcore.
Yes, and so that was a really good deck. And then Electric came, which obviously stage 1 is most of the time going to be quicker than a stage 2. And that obviously just took things to a next level because it was like, well, turn 2, I'm going to evolve and I'm going to set up a what is it called, a Zekrom, and then just attack that way. So Electric was, immediately when it came out, it was a deck. And then when, like Curtis said, when Mewtwo came and when Zekrom EX came, it just got even better. And then,
and then the
Rayquaza
came.
And then the Rayquaza came, exactly.
But I mean, Malamar hit the South African scene as soon as it came out, because we had a SPE the week after the set was released. I can't even think of the set's name off the top of my head.
After that, made Forbidden Light.
Forbidden Light, thank you. So Forbidden Light got released. We had a SPE that same week, I think. And Malamar, like there were I think 2 or 3 Malamar decks in the top cut.
4.
4 Malamar decks.
If I look at Limitless, it's 4, yeah.
4 Malamar decks. Yeah.
3 Buzzle and 1 Zoroark.
Shame. Bad days.
What a mad guy to play Zoroark deck. He seems like a talented individual though.
So yeah, definitely making its impact as soon as it came out. But yeah, so basically as we've noticed, we've been speaking about this for quite a while, and that just proves the fact that Pokemon really does recycle ideas, which is fine for players who have been playing for a while, because it allows them to get back into the game, allows them to play with something familiar, and it also, unfortunately, puts a high price tag on those cards before they even come out.
I think the one thing that sort of, I don't know how to say this, disappointing maybe, is that Pokemon recycle, but then they don't, like, how can I say, they don't put more than one sort of viable option to play in front of you. They don't put more than two, like trying to say. Whereas in the past, there's been a few formats where there's been like 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 decks that were viable, and like in a way where it was like, okay, this deck beats these 4, but doesn't beat that one. Do I take for that one, or do I just try and beat these 4? Okay, this one doesn't beat that one, but it beats all the others, or that kind of thing.
Yes.
And we don't seem to have that too often. Sort of once every like 4 or 5 years where that rotation happens. And then also people finding different versions to play of certain things. So like the Zoroark was very, very dominant. But it was very dominant because you could play Zoroark with this card, you could play Zoroark with that card, you could play Zoroark with that card.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Everybody's playing attacking Zoroark, then we play a control Zoroark. Which I think that makes the game a bit more fun, except for the fact that it was only Zoroark obviously that was being played. But, I mean, there was a time where you had, trying to think, a Salgor, Othitel, which was just like
Mew,
which was the weirdest because it's like, okay, I can take for this, I can beat it, but then what happens if I take for this? Then I'm gonna lose to that. So do I taking for that and hoping that nobody has it, or do I just?
True.
I remember people throwing 2 Caldeos in their Darkrai deck.
Yeah, that was the funnest thing I think. Like in the older formats, is that and then before even I started playing, there was the deck that Ross Cawthorn piloted, the Truth.
Oh, the Truth, yeah.
Like, really meta breaking. That was meta breaking in a world's tournament, not just like
you made the final. I think.
Yeah, you made. I think you made the semi-final.
No, finals. He lost to the.
Yeah, he lost to John Ross the third. John
Roberts.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was meta breaking at a Worlds, whereas we meta break in our testing group.
Yeah.
Like you want to find that, like they call it the binder drop deck, but there should be opportunities to find that in a format. But I think for the past couple of years there hasn't been that opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean the stall deck, the one with the Ranguru has been the most recent one that I can think of that has been like out of the box type of thinking format, but there hasn't been many of those where it's been like, wow, I didn't actually see this idea coming. Who thought of this? What crazy human being thought of this? Everything has sort of been, oh yeah, open your mouth, there you go. Yeah, here's the deck for you. There you go.
Shame. This is really a sore topic for you.
No, I just like
variety.
The fact that you have to think about what you're doing. Whereas, there was formats where I would rock up, opening turn, flip cards over, look at the guy's starting Pokemon and go, yeah, I beat this guy. Just because I
know the feeling.
I know exactly what is in his deck because I know he started with an electric, cool, or he started with a Dynamo, cool. I know exactly how to beat his deck. Fantastic.
Look, it's
basically
it was a tech turn one.
Someone 60 cards, yeah.
That's terrible.
No, but I mean, you can get someone 60 cards from the card that turn over first.
Yeah.
At this point.
And then you play like, shout out to Etienne, you play a guy who just puts down a white Kyurem and you're just like, huh?
Or just a normal Kyurem. Exactly. I was just about to mention, like, guys like Etienne. Etienne has a name for his decks. He calls it Junky Funky decks. And when I go to league challenges, specifically league challenges, I like to play with decks like that because there's a few reasons. One, it allows you to improve on your deck brewing skills, your deck building skills, and it catches your opponents off guard and lets them think outside of the box as well. So, and it's just overall, it's a lot more fun because if you win with a deck like that, it's so satisfying.
Funny. Especially in like where we play in Cape Town. If you play one tournament, the next tournament everybody's like, oh, okay, this guy's gonna play this deck. You just rock with some random stuff, and they're like, huh?
Exactly. And we we known for this that in Cape Town anyway. Many people don't play with the same deck twice.
I think
Yeah.
my favorite. Well, I think they're doing that now because a lot of people were like, okay, cool, we need to beat this guy, and then this guy rocks up with a different deck. And you're like,
Exactly.
But I think my favorite, like the reason why I actually enjoyed Pokemon, I'll never forget. I think we played I think it was called a Battle Road. It was a
Yes,
tournament.
Battle Roads.
Yes.
And
Battle Roads.
one of the guys that was like one of the top players in our league, he had a spare deck that he like was debating whether or not he should play it. And I was just tired of playing the same stuff over and over. And I said to him, like, look, let me play this deck. And somehow I ended up winning. It was Gothitelle God of War. Where the God of War doubled your psychic energies and Gothitelle just did damage according to the number of psychic energies attached to it. And it was in a
Yes.
format where everybody was playing Dix or
Mewtwo.
Ray Eels, Mewtwo. Yeah. And it was like, oh, I'm rocking up with this. And people were like, huh?
So
And I think it played the Plusle and Minum, which allowed you to draw 8 cards on XLE. It was on your bench.
yeah.
And people were like, what? And then they knock something out, and because everybody's been playing in the format, they try and take 2 prizes, and you're like, whoa. No.
No,
One.
only one for you.
Yeah, this is real Pokemon.
That's what made me fall in love with the game, because it was like just it took me I'm not gonna lie, it was rough in the beginning because I had no idea what any of the cards did.
I remember you used to play a Napoleon deck.
Yeah, that awkward moment when you put a card down, pick it up to read it, then you put it down again, and your opponent picks it up to read it. Like, okay, cool. None of us knew what this does, but it's just one of those things where if you can bring more fun and diverse decks that actually can do well. I mean, it's all cool having fun decks, but then they bomb and you're just like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, especially if you're investing in the game.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like Curtis is saying, obviously variety and stuff is something we enjoy in the game to see and obviously experience ourselves. But another aspect of playing the same deck over and over and over again, like maybe 2, 3, 4 tournaments in a row. Like I think Matthew did with Zorok and maybe different variants.
But he did it with
So
Evil
rock,
Tower.
like, and rock.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you kind of learn how to play the deck, like the ins and outs of the deck. So yes, testing with the deck and playing with it in a tournament is great, but once you've been playing it for maybe 2, 3 months, you get to a point where you know everything in the deck, even though yes, you know all 60 cards, but you have sort of like game plans for everything in the back of your head. So okay, this went wrong, I didn't draw that, I can do this, I can maybe stall for a turn or 2 and then do this, or
Yeah.
so that's also the
No.
good side of playing the same.
It's definitely something that I've brought up, especially with kids at my league who try and play with a different deck every week. Playing with a new deck, like picking up a deck and playing with it, it does take a certain level of skill because you need to understand the dynamic and what the strategy and the win conditions of the deck is. And yeah, not everybody can just pick up a deck and identify that. And like you said, the more you play with the deck, the more you realize, so like you start learning the inner workings and how to deal with it in different matchups and different situations. So you are right there. There is a plus and minus, but that doesn't mean that you can't take a rogue deck, a junky funky deck, and play with that deck for 3 tournaments either.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, for sure.
I think any deck, if you practice enough on it, it becomes good while in your hands.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think if you don't, you can play with the deck for 3-4 months and stuff. But if you don't also make changes, that will benefit you.
Like constantly
You're just literally copy pasting from Limitless because that's where we all do it now.
Yeah.
It's cool to play the decks and they're obviously good for a reason, but they're also good in that meta.
And also the player who's
Might
playing
not
it.
apply to us. Yeah, but obviously, it's a good deck. You know it's a good deck because it's good players playing it, but they're also playing in a format where there's 300 people, 100 people at a tournament. So consistency has to be key. But if you, in our meta, we don't know our meta, to be fair, when we sit down and because you have no idea. People can come up with wild things.
Look, we thumb suck. When we sit at that table, if we know that we can beat each other, then we know that we stand about a 60% chance.
A
of
good
winning.
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long
I
as
mean, there was a
somebody-
top four of a League Cup. I think it was now in this current season. I keep wanting to say last season because
It
I
feels
mean, it
like
feels
it's last season, yeah.
yeah, that I think three of the top four. I don't think Curtis played in that tournament,
Yeah.
so three of the top four
Was us.
were you, myself, and Matthew.
Correct. I think, yeah.
It's
That
happened a
was
few
the-
more.
where-
It's like
That
a
was the one where I
combination
went on to win that cup. I think that was
yeah,
Reno was the fourth
you
one.
played against me in the final. No, I think it was Eugene. Because you played against him in the semi. I played against Matthew. I remember top decking
Yes,
something that
you're
made
right,
Matthew
you're
upset.
You're right.
of. He
Yes.
doesn't remember
To
that.
be fair, a lot of stuff makes me upset.
It's like that moment when Matthew's walking over and you can see he's looking upset, and you know, all right, well, he just lost 2-0.
How many-
Yeah.
how many-
He lost to that junior again.
But yeah,
That was the thing. But yeah, so I was like you say once, because none of the four of us even picking up a new deck is like, it doesn't. I don't think out of the four of us that any of us are bad players. So being able to beat each other, we like okay, we have a good chance of doing something. But then you get to the event and then people are playing random things, like the most random things
Yeah.
ever. And then you go with a negative record or something
You
because
can-
you're like, yeah, but I played against real decks.
you can
And
only
now-
play test so much, and you can only
Yeah.
play test against
Yeah.
so many decks without realizing what's going on.
I think the best
Because
of three
this-
format is the best.
Because this
You can
person,
learn in round one what's this guy doing. You're like, okay,
Yes.
because then you realize that this person didn't have Tropical Beach and now they're playing Electrode. So then you kind of just adapt.
from experience.
Yes, I hear some PTSD there. But yeah, so basically, look, it really it sums everything up. Pokemon recycles ideas, and it's sad to see some bans in standard, but I suppose we will look ahead to the future and see that it was probably for a reason. This is going to be the first episode of a series of episodes where we discuss all things Pokemon. Yeah, guys, I just want to say thank you for joining me. It was insightful with some of your old references. Aaqil and Curtis.
Yeah.
Kill older than me.
But thanks, guys, and yeah, if you guys liked the podcast / newsroom / video, if you guys like it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more details in the future, and we'll be chatting again soon. Cheers.